It's funny, Jeff's gonna get some good quotes on this, but he told me, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, you know who the worst developer on the planet is? And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. And he goes, it was me last week, right? Because you're always looking back at the stuff that you did before, and you're like, why did I make that decision? You know, how do you make it better? And so it's always that drive of what I did last week is trash. Now we have to make it better, right? And every week it keeps getting better and better. And that's just kind of part of the culture that I think a lot of independents have.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we need to have, like, when you don't have that, then you have the computer system that you update every 6 months and you stop caring, and the needs of the people. Like, I mean, it's like for any business, I think it's important to look at what you've done, and that's not it, right? Like, hopefully you're smarter, or hopefully we're smarter, 6 months from now than we are now. So an idea we had 6 months ago probably isn't the best idea, right? Or if it was a good idea, like, how do we make it better?
It's changed. Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah, exactly. It's changed. And maybe the game's changed, right? Like, maybe someone found something that made it easier. And like, I know for you guys, I think with software, it's probably similar, but I always tell people, like, I love hearing problems, but you better not just throw a problem on my lap. You better give me a solution. Like, I don't want to hear it, Rannon, like, our workflow sucks. Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
Right. Cool. Yeah, no.
I'll get right on that, but it's like, Rannon, it takes too long to find stuff in the print queue, or, hey, like, these are getting lost in the shuffle, or we're not doing these as fast. And I think if we do X, Y, Z, now we've got that. And so it's a testament to just our team and like you said, the culture. And I mean, our med techs are super smart. And like, I mean, some of the best ideas we've had for our COVID testing came from, our part-time or like our seasonal med techs that are just like, man, Rannon, like, a few people have called complaining about this or saying that this was tough. Is there any way we could maybe like X, Y, Z or do this and that? And I was like, oh, man, that's a great idea. Yeah, I had no idea. And we can definitely do that. It's done, And so stuff like that, just making these like little tweaks and kind of like almost like making a sculpture. You take the big chisel to get the huge like kind of figure done, and then you get the little fine tuning, and then you just kind of go there. And so I think it's super important.
Yeah.
And it's a really tragedy if you stop.
And to yours and Mark's credit, like, you've built a culture where the med tech feels totally comfortable coming to Rannon going, this thing takes too long, and that's something where we try to do too here is just like, I don't, Josh always says, I think this is a Josh quote, but he's like, I don't care if a good idea comes from the janitor. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. They're probably the people that see the dirtiest parts of the building. So they might have the best.
Well, it's funny. I was, when I was working on my MBA, we were studying lean manufacturing. So when manufacturing went over to Japan after the war, their economy was decimated. So they had to come up with these ideas to be better and more efficient. And so they actually took ideas from a guy from Kodak to build out Six Sigma and lean manufacturing. And one of the first things they did was, in an assembly line, typically the only person who could stop the line was the supervisor. And one of the first things that Toyota did was say, that's terrible. The guy who sees the broken thing go by him on the line is the one that needs to stop the line. Right. So they made it so that literally anybody on that manufacturing floor could stop a manufacturing line when they saw a problem. And I think that's really important that, successful pharmacies and successful companies let the people who are doing the job that they're doing all day, every day, say, hey, this doesn't work. And if we did this differently, you get a better result. And we all know how that turned out, right? Toyota's known for making defect-free cars, right? It just
good.
Like, they'll run forever, right? You can't say the same of Chrysler, right? And
right. Yeah.
No offense to anyone.
No offense to anybody at Chrysler.
Right.
If they ever listen.
Exactly. Like, sorry.
Like, my bad. Since we're gonna name names.
Notably, I drive neither a Chrysler nor a Toyota.
No. He's a car snob in general.
Josh, you just called out, boy.
That's okay.
Right. But no, I think
we're a long way away from Chrysler taking notice of us.
That's true.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think I think you're right, and I think that kind of comes from the top, so to speak, and that's something that I've always been super appreciative with. Like, Mark's been like a huge mentor to me, and like, all the quotes you guys have from Jeff, I've got the same number of quotes from Mark, and so One thing that we talk about a lot, and we talk about, how do we start this, or for you guys, like how do you start a new service? Or I'm sure when you pitched, like, I mean, Josh, I was there. Actually, she and I were there at the. It was Louisiana, right? It was New Orleans at the introduction of care plans,
right?
And like I was hyped, man. Like I was so pumped up when you were talking about care plans, and like I looked around the room, and like there's some people that just like didn't like they just couldn't wrap their head around it, and so I wonder about like just being able to be in a position or have the encouragement to try something and not be afraid of how it's going to be received, because over time it'll be fine. And so Mark's been always super encouraging to me to say like, all right, if we try something, worst case scenario, it fails, at least we know now we don't need that. And while everyone's wasting their time trying to figure out, I don't know, like what's a failed idea? I mean, there's so many. Anyway, like
we have a lot of those ourselves.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I was like trying to, I don't know, to rocket into the sea. Like we don't need to do that because we've already tried it and it doesn't work, and we can move on. And so he would always ask me like, if I made a mistake, especially as a student, that for a student or like a new pharmacist or even just like a new owner or manager, like we're so afraid of misstepping and we're so afraid of doing the wrong thing, or what if I order too many flu shots, or what if I order these strep tests that expire or whatever. But
what if you order an ultra low freezer, right?
Yeah. What if you order an ultra low freezer? No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just something that he would always ask me, like, did you do it maliciously? Did you do it on purpose? Did you make that mistake because you wanted to just, throw it down the drain? And I would always say, like, no, like never. He's like, all right, so I don't have to blame you for that, but did you learn something? And I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, good. If those, answers to those questions are anything but that, then we have a problem, right? And so I was always appreciative of that. And like we said, like, we could have bought an ultra low freezer, a different vaccine could come out, and then we just have the coolest, most expensive ice cream freezer of all time, right?
Yes, that ice cream will be rock hard.
I know.
I mean, the cool part is you guys are like 20 minutes away from an anthropology department at UT that does use ultra low freezers. So
that's true.
You could probably sell it to somebody that's freezing a lemur or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If we have to mark it down and get that off our chest or whatever, we can totally do that. And so a lot of it was just being okay. And like you said, to print an idea. And Josh, please, I didn't mean to say that like the care plan.
Oh, no. The first time I presented it, there were crickets.
No, it was, no, we've talked about this. I mean, a long time.
I widely regard that as like the single worst presentation I've ever given. Just because, when I went to go talk about it, like I'd been doing care planning for years and I'd been thinking about how it worked and what was going to look at it. And I could see the beginning and I could see the end. And I presented it to, 250 people who had not even heard about the beginning yet. So we're talking about a vision that we were in two different rooms for all intents and purposes. And so, seeing like that, and that was one of those formative moments of, you can have a vision, but if you can't make it simple enough to communicate it to other people, it's a fail. So, I took that back to the drawing board and said, hey, I have to figure out a way to bring independent pharmacists who haven't heard of this concept yet to the table. And, that was really the start of how we made care plans simpler, really start thinking about, all right, well, your average pharmacy is not going to go and build custom templates and custom triggers and all these other fancy things, but we could build that for them and they can use them if they're very easy. So it was absolutely, looking out, like if you're on stage and you ever watch a comedian just totally bomb, that was me for 2 hours.
Yeah, but I'll say this though. I mean, you came back and you learned so dang much. And here's a number I can throw out there. I think I'll get in trouble, but oh well, if it is. And we've sent, what's the number? What's the final? What do you think the final number is? I don't know.
We're at about a little over 1.1 million.
1.1 million care plans have been transmitted.
That is incredible.
And so, you're right. It went from like, no offense, of like, something that
it went from this nebulous topic that made me kind of look like a fool to now it's commonplace. Like there's 900 pharmacies that submit at least one care plan a month.